सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। So yesterday we saw the first 8 shlokas where it was still Arjuna trying to find closure of his thought which he had started in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So it is called the Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Though his mind was completely drowning in dejection, it was drowning in severe self-criticism, guilt. Even in that kind of a mindset, even in that kind of an environment, the samskara that has been enabled in him right since young age, therefore it becomes that important that when we are raising our children, that before they hit teenage, before they turn 13, the amount of samskara as a parent, as a well-wisher, as neighbors that we can inculcate, that is what is going to guide them throughout their entire life. Though he is dejected, though he is angry with Bhagavān Krishna, though he is throwing a challenge at Bhagavān Krishna, if you think that my way of thinking, my opinion of running away from this, which you call my responsibility, if that is the case, I will surrender to you and you teach me the right way. Yat shreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme. Always there are two kinds of choices. That which is pleasurable, initially it is very pleasant, but its repercussions are quite deep and dangerous. Then there is the path of absolute good. While thinking about it, preparing for it, executing it, it seems the most difficult. It requires a lot of effort. It is nowhere close to effortlessness. But the results of it are long lasting and brings in immense amount of peace. So most of us, just like Arjuna, we have in every intersection of life where we need to make a decision, a choice between the right and the easy. Which one do we choose? Obviously, the easiest path, we suddenly become electricity. Why? Electricity flows where there is least resistance put up. We also, least resistance. Wherever there is hard work required, we start throwing tantrums, we start giving reasons, we start being cranky, irrespective of the age. Even in such kind of a dejected mindset where he has personally made the decision already that I don't want to fight. Bhagavan, you support my thought. Most of us, when we seek advice, we don't come with an open mind that I am seeking clarity. Most of us in situation, we have already made a decision. We are looking for somebody that can support us in that decision that which we have already made, because taking that direction all by myself seems very cumbersome. Therefore, I need somebody to second my thought, thereby I can run my course. If the friend that you have approached tries to correct you, we instead blame them for not being compassionate and understanding them for their own good. Very difficult to give suggestions and advices. Though people say advice is the easiest thing to give, it's the most difficult, it's the one filled with a lot of responsibility. That is not a decision that I just prevalently give. It is a decision that can impact the other person, their life and their course of action. And most of us don't go with open mind. Now Arjuna tried all the methods in first chapter. None of it seemed to work. Then finally he says, in utter sheer frustration, oh, you want to be called as Madhusudana, Arisudana, and you want me to kill gurus so that later the posterity will remember as Guru Sudana? How do you expect me to kill my gurus? Okay, if that be that you are still not agreeing with me, try changing me. I'll become your student. But give me the best of the pathways which is of absolute good. Yena shreyaha yasyat nischitam bruhi. Without any confusion, give me with absolute clarity. Now, after having heard Arjuna, this entire scenario is summed up for the blind one. Who is the blind one here? Dhritarashtra. When you read Mahabharata, in Mahabharata there is this Bhagavad Gita, you will have to remember that there are too many pairs of communications happening. One pair of communication that is happening is between Vyasa Bhagavan and Ganesha. Vyasa is the author, Ganesha is the scribe. Here specifically, there is Sanjaya speaking or narrating what has happened on the very first day, which was being revealed to Dhritarashtra on the 10th day. So there is Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra, that communication is happening. And in part of that communication, the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna is happening. So one should not be surprised, ये संजय बीच में कहाँ से आया? Why is Sanjaya speaking in between? Because he is narrating this entire 18 chapters to the blind king. And one thing to note is the blind king has only one shloka in all these 700 shlokas. I usually taunt Dhritarashtra that he has become a professional satsangi. What is professional satsangi? Comfortably sit in the chair and he's blind, you don't know whether he is seeing or not. So after asking the question, like many have the experience of going into sleep, there is not a single word uttered by him. Though Sanjaya now and then summarizes the thought of the chapter or the bhava to Dhritarashtra. Here as well, we find Sanjaya giving the summary of so far what has happened between Krishna and Arjuna. So repeat after me. Sanjaya Uvacha Eva Muktva Hrishikesham Gudakesha Parantapa Nayotsya iti Govindam Uktva tushnim babuvaha Tamuvacha Hrishikeshaha Prahasanniva Bharata Senayorubhayor madhye Vishidantamidam vachaha. Sanjaya Uvacha. Before Sanjaya, the personal secretary to Dhritarashtra was his own brother, stepbrother, Vidura. Just before the war could begin, Vidura was equally attached to both Pandavas and Kauravas. And he said, I cannot imagine the loss on either sides. My heart cannot take that anymore. There is so much that has happened in these 90 years. I have also become old. I am incapacitated to continue, see these atrocities and then be of help to Dhritarashtra impartially. Therefore, I recluse myself from this entire war and this business. There was one more such famous person who withdrew from taking part in this war. Do you know who it is? Balarama. There are several others. Most prominently Balarama and Vidura. Both did not want to participate. When Viduraji wanted to step down, rightfully the rest of them said, now identify somebody as capable as you and appoint them as your next successor. So Sanjaya gave out the advertisement in all available newspapers. There were a lot of people that came for the interview. Amongst all of them, he selected Sanjaya. True to his name, Samyak Jayati Yaha Saha, the one who has complete mastery over all the organs of perception, action and mind, equanimous inside, impartial into the outside field of functioning. Such Sanjaya was summing up the thought for the benefit of Dhritarashtra. Evam uktva Hrishikesham Gudakeshaha Parantapa. Hrishikesham, unto Bhagavān Krishna, Gudakesha, that who is known as Parantapa as well. And what is the thought that he had? Nayotsya iti Govindam. I shall not fight, but if you have a better thought, try teaching me. Uktva tushnim babuvaha. Sobbing, he sat there in that chariot where he had collapsed, expecting and waiting for Bhagavan to utter words of clarity. Tam uvacha Hrishikeshaha. Unto such crying, desperate Arjuna, Hrishikeshaha, that Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Prahasan, with a composed, compassionate heart, expressing on his face as a beaming smile. This dialogue happened Senayoho Ubhayoho Madhye, where the Pandavas were on the one side with 7 Akshohinis of Sainya and the Kauravas were 11 Akshohinis of Sainya. In each Akshohini, as we learnt last chapter, that each Akshohini there were about approximately, I am rounding off to the nearest round figure, 250,000, 250,000 in each Sainya, in each Akshohini. So 250 times 11 on this side, 250 times 7 on this side. So you can imagine the vastness where this whole thing was spread. It was not just 100 fighting with 5. 11 times 250,000 and 7 times 250,000. Huge armies. Right smack in the middle of these two armies, the chariot was placed, and in that chariot Arjuna had collapsed. To that Arjuna, Bhagwan had turned around because the charioteer is in the front, just like in the backdrop that you see. But here it is the repaired Arjuna. But here what is being described by Sanjaya is yet to be repaired Arjuna. So Gurudev puts it in the introduction in his holy book, Holy Gita, where he says, for the Arjuna psychosis, Bhagavad Gita is the Krishna medicine. So it is yet to be repaired. Senayoho Ubhayoho Madhye Vishidantam, the one who was crying uncontrollably, shaking and shivering, to him these vachaha, the following words, were thus spoken. Now why was this necessary for Sanjaya to sum it up? It was necessary because just before the war had begun, Dhritarashtra had sent Sanjaya with a piece of message. And the piece of message that was given was what actually disturbed Arjuna, because it was intended only for Arjuna. The entire Kaurava army will be protected as long as Bhishma continues to stay on the war. That was the assurance that Dhritarashtra had. Now there is only one person in the entire Pandava army that could challenge and defeat Bhishma, and that was Arjuna. So even before the war had begun, the psychological war was already unleashed, and that message was taken by Sanjaya to the Pandavas, specifically focused to give it to Arjuna. So it is like his confession. Just because I did not give you this message on the first day doesn't mean that I have not given the message. I did give the message. Therefore you see this kind of an effect on Arjuna, where you wanted him not to fight, and he had decided not to fight. Nayotse iti govindam uktva tushnim babuva. He had very clearly stated to Bhagavan that I don't want to fight. And Dhritarashtra, that was something which you had planted in his head, and it worked. I delivered it. But then Bhagavan is Hrishikesha. Hrishikesha has two meanings. I'll give you both meanings. Hrishi Kesha. Kesha means Bal. Therefore, I correct all our volunteers. that when we conduct those programs for the little children, don't call it as Bal Vihar, call it as Bala Vihar. Otherwise, people will think we are running a beautician shop for Kale Ghane Gungrale Lambe Bal. So it is not Bal Vihar, it is Bala Vihar. See, ek akshar mein the whole meaning changes. So here Hrishikesha, meaning that Bhagavan who was in his 90s, early 90s, and yet he had dark, long, curly, beautiful, lustrous hair. But that definition of Hrishikesha does not fit into this particular narrative. So what is the second meaning? Hrishika Isha. Hrishika Isha, one meaning of it is the one who is the master of Isha, master of the entire body, mind and intellect, which was absolutely in his immense control and balance. Hrishika also means this entire created creation, the one who was the master of the entire creation, therefore he is the Ishvara of this creation. Jagadishvara, another meaning of Hrishikesha. So such Bhagavan, who is the Ishvara of this entire creation, meaning he is the Ishvara of you and I as the Jivatma. And the job of that Ishvara is to ensure that for each individual, that karma that they have done, they receive the appropriate phala of it in the right time where it can be unfolded to each individual. So such Ishvara, when he decided that this entire Papa karma which was boiling, represented by Kauravas, their time had already come, and that they will not be spared any further. So the Ishvara who decided that Kauravas' time has come and they have to be dealt with, and his weapon of choice to deal with those Kauravas was the Pandavas, specifically spearheaded by Arjuna. Such Hrishikesha. कहा तो है भगवान श्री कृष्ण, but in naming Bhagavan Shri Krishna as Hrishikesha, the implied meaning has that depth, that he is the very Ishvara of this entire creation, therefore he is the Ishvara of, as the Karma Phaladata. As a Karma Phaladata, he had already decided the fate of Kauravas, that this is it, no further. And the instrument of that functionality was chosen as Arjuna. And to that Arjuna, the spearhead which had become dull temporarily, Bhagavān Krishna, idam vachaha, started speaking, sharpening the tool, removing all the rusty edges, so that he could become the most effective and efficient tool in that war. So don't misunderstand, O Dhritarashtra, that I had not given this message to Arjuna. Was it that Arjuna was born like this? Dull-headed, dim-witted, constantly scared? No. He was known as Gudakesha Parantapa. Gudakesha, again, if you take the physical attribute description, Gudakesha, that 89-year-old Arjuna also had long, thick hair, Gudakesha. But that doesn't fit here either. Gudaka Isha. Gudaka means darkness. The one who was such skilled warrior that just with the sound of the enemy from where it is originating, even though it was dark, he could not see, he could aim, shoot that particular target just by sound. He had mastered the darkness as though Gudakesha. And he was also known as Parantapa. Yuddhe Rane Shatrun Paran Tapayati Yaha Saha Parantapa. In the Ranaranga, where there is a battle, if they were to come to know that there is Arjuna standing and they have to face that Arjuna, Paran, meaning such enemies, Tapayati, they would be tormented just with the thought that they had to face Arjuna. Meaning, he was not somebody that was born this way, that he got, he was anyway not a worthy candidate. And it got reflected in this war. He was somebody that had mastered the darkness. He was somebody that would infuse fear even before he went into the war, into the enemies. Now such Arjuna, Nayotse iti, not recognizing his own responsibility, he says, Nayotse iti, I don't want to fight. And he just collapsed and became silent, looking at Bhagavān Krishna. Now to that Arjuna, this is how a parent should handle their children. When there is an emotional high note happening, when the child's decibel level is high, we try to compete with them with a higher decibel note, trying to, just because it is a higher decibel note doesn't mean that it has a logic. If there is no logic, there is no magic. The transformation cannot be expected. What is Bhagavan? How is he responding? That one crucial fellow, without who the rest of the war may not take the direction which Bhagavan has given the Shapa Phala, Karma Phala. And that is Arjuna. And that Arjuna is this dilapidated, this rejected. Even though it was a very critical situation, he smiles, not mocking Arjuna, with an understanding smile, tries to evolve that Arjuna's mind with soothing words, comforting words of logic. It may not be pleasing words, but soothing enough to reconstruct Arjuna and his thinking. Parahasan iva Bharata. Smilingly, he took up this challenge of resurrecting Arjuna. So here comes, the first few two shlokas that he spoke to Arjuna in this chapter were like a test phase. How bad is Arjuna lost? Can I repair him? Klaibyam mas magamah partha naitatva yupapadyate Shudram hridaya dautbalyam tektottishta parantapa. That was said. But the actual message begins from this next shloka, 11th shloka. Therefore, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji in his Bhashya does not write a commentary on the first chapter or the first 10 shlokas of this particular chapter. He starts his commentary from the 11th shloka onwards. So if somebody were to ask why did he neglect commenting on the other shlokas, Adi Shankaracharya says that part of history and the historical relevance of it, you put the effort, go through Mahabharata, read. The rest of it I will give you the commentary. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Ashocyananvashocastvam Prajñāvādāṃsca bhāṣase Gatasu nagatasumscha nanushocanti panditaha. First and foremost, this particular chapter is named as Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga meaning, the very word etymologically means that which is as logical as the numbers and the math behind the numbers. Meaning very logical with reasoning approachable. Therefore it is called Sankhya. Further deeper meaning in it is the first reference that we find where the entire treatise of the Vedanta Shastra, the Upanishad Sara, was given by Kapila Mahamuni to his mother Devahuti. And that Vedanta Shastra is also known as Sankhya Vedanta. Here, one should not confuse it with the Sankhya school of thought, Sankhya Darshana, which was also given by Kapila. So there is always that confusion, because that also is called Sankhya, this also is called Sankhya, that was also given by Kapila, this was also given by Kapila. The Sankhya Darshana was given by Kapila Rishi, whereas Sankhya philosophy was given by, Sankhya Vedanta was given by Kapila Mahamuni. He was an avatar of Bhagavān Vishnu, and he gave this knowledge to his mother Devahuti. The difference between Sankhya Vedanta and Sankhya Darshana, both of them use similar words. Both of them use Prakriti and Purusha. In the Sankhya Vedanta, which is the essence of the entire Upanishadic knowledge, Prakriti is considered as Anadi but Antavanta. Anadi meaning we cannot ascertain when exactly that this Prakriti began, but whenever it began, it certainly has an end. Whereas in the Sankhya Darshana, the Prakriti and Purusha, both of them are Anadi and Ananta. So there is a huge difference there. This particular wisdom, that which Bhagavān Krishna is trying to teach in this second chapter, is called Sankhya because it is directly taken from the message that was given by Kapila Mahamuni to Devahuti, which was the Vedanta Sara. And since it was given by him, he named it as the Sankhya Vedanta. And since he was borrowing it from directly Kapila Mahamuni, the chapter itself is named as Sankhya Yoga. So now we'll come to the shloka. This is the beginning first statement given by Bhagavān Krishna. Ashocya nanvashocastvam prajñāvādāmscha bhāshase gatasun agatasumscha na anushocanti panditaha. Ashocya nanushocanti. Socha is, the root word is shoka. Panditaha na shocanti. They do not grieve. They do not get cornered in their grief. they do not become miserable, though misery comes uninvited in everybody's life. Pandita is that who is not disturbed or distracted by the daily griefs that happen in individual's life. In our Shastra, there is a particular method in which the Shastra has to be written. And when the Shastra is written in that format, that is when it is considered as the science of philosophy. It has to follow that particular pattern. It is called Shatvidha Linga Nirnaya. Meaning, the thought that which you are starting and the thought which you are ending should be in that same subject, same theme. So technically the last shloka said by Bhagavan before he winds off in the 18th chapter is a shloka that you all know, memorized. If I give you the first word, rest of it you will fill it up. I am sure of it. Sarva dharman aham tva sarva papebhyah moksha. What is the last word in that shloka? Ma shucha. What is the first word in the beginning? In this shloka that we are doing, second chapter. Ashochya nanvashochatvam. Ashochatvam and ma shucha. So the thought is in the same theme maintained through and through the entire 700 shlokas. What is the purpose? Who does this Bhagavad Gita serve? Anybody that has a restless mind, tormented mind, constantly going through grief, misery and the various different emotional things that happen through the mind, uncontrollably happening. For such individual, when they take up Bhagavad Gita, what does it promise? Mukti from such uncontrollable mind. To take it to that platform of peace within. Of course, the peace spelling is P-E-A-C-E, not P-E-A-S. Ashocyam, ashocyananvashocasvam, prajñavadamscha bhashase. Arjuna, you up until now have spoken as though you are the most erudite scholar. The very presentation of that thought has a little sarcasm in it. You are speaking as though a pandita, behaving like a pandita. Speaking as though you are prajñavan, but what you are expressing is murkhatva. If that kind of prajña and stability is there in you, then in amidst the most miserable kind of situations, overwhelming situations, prajñavan, the one who has this, his intellect most illumined, ashocyan, they will not feel perturbed, though they are surrounded by all perturbing incidents around them, and yet they will have the calmness to deal with it. You are far away from it. Ashocyan anvashochasvam. You are grieving about that which should not be grieved about. And you are acting as though you are prajnavan. But there is absence of that prajna. What should a pandita prajna do? Gatasun agatasumscha na anusochanti. Gatasun, that which has gone by. Agatasun, that which is yet to unfold. Meaning, the past and the future doesn't disturb the present. It is like the opening statement, and the opening statement is out of the boundary. First ball, in swinging Yorker, and the batsman hits it to the out of the stadium. What an opening statement. Such profoundness given in such simple words. Gatasun agatasumscha na anusochanti panditaha. That which has gone by, the past, and that which is yet to happen is the future. With regards to these two, a pandita, a prajnavan is somebody that does not allow the past and the future to disturb them in the present. How does this usually affect us, impact us? Each one of us carries heavy luggage, heavy load of the past. The past memories cannot be erased. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, horrifying, non-horrifying, pleasant, all kinds of experiences, they are etched in our memory, we cannot erase them. But we can surely unburden ourselves with the weight of it. The entire past, we carry it as a load in the form of regrets. I should have done it then. I had the opportunity, I missed the opportunity. I shouldn't have said this then to them. I said it, but now I regret. I have the remorse of that incident. The past experience, which are a part of memory, takes lesser space. But when it becomes an abscess, it becomes regrets, and that regretful leak becomes the stench of the burden of the past. How does it impact the present? Burdened by the past and the regrets of the past, in the present, we start carrying self-doubt. तब मेरे से ऐसी गलती हुई थी, अब सुधरो. But instead of reforming ourselves, transforming ourselves, because I have had an earlier experience, I am educated by my own experience, thereby that particular incident that happened then should have become a nugget of wisdom illumining my present. But instead, it becomes the very roadblock for me to progress further. How? एक बार गलती हुआ है तो फिर से गलती होगा तो? Once I have committed a mistake, what if the same mistake repeats itself? I don't know, I don't want to. Within the armed forces, there is one specific charged group called paratroopers. They are the choicest one selected from different wings of the armed forces, trained for extensive search rescue missions outside of the borders. One of the critical training is for them to paratroopers, where they drop off the flights at from 20,000-30,000 feet, and then they have to launch their parachutes and glide themselves. If there was any glitch, that even one member of the team was finding that glitch, irrespective of what time that they have all regathered, and once they regather, they collect all the information of their experience. If there is a glitch, immediately they launch themselves for a second round. It is not tomorrow or day after, immediately. Why? Because something went wrong, there was a glitch. Fear should not set in, self-doubt should not set in. Before that self-doubt can take its roots, it is uprooted by taking it by the horns and experiencing it firsthand again. Imagine if there is war declared and these bunch of people are the first line of defense or offense, and they get self-doubt, the entire strategy collapses. So it is a part of the training to not carry forward the past as regrets, but to win over that glitch, and as many times as it takes for that entire team to get over that, so that there is no fear of it left in their heart, self-doubt left in their heart. Otherwise, many times what happens? Just because there was an early experience, we think that that which has become a failure, it starts defining us for the rest of our life. I am a loser, I am a failure, I am good for nothing. There was one poem that I find quite inspiring. See, when the child is born, nobody comes out of the mother's womb running. Nobody is coming out like a Usain Bolt. The moment the child is appearing, he started running. Nobody comes out. The child comes out helplessly. After the cord is cut, cleaned, for the next 3-4 months, the child is lying on his back, helplessly. And therefore, for everything that the child requires in that stage, that little package comes with loud voice. Any discomfort, any need, anything to be changed, the first thing that the child does, wah! That is the only language that fellow knows. And the mother is fine-tuned to that. The antennas are fine-tuned to that cry. Wherever she is, however busy she is, she will drop everything in a second, run to that child to find what discomfort is affecting that child. And you can also see when that child is carried, you will see that right in the back here, there is the hair growth reduced. Why? Constantly the head is like this, it is rupturing. All the head follicles there have been lost. Then after 3-4 months, the child somehow learns to flip on the tummy. In many traditions, in many families, that day they celebrate. Because first act of independence, first act of freedom. Then the child learns, Arey, these two things that are here, these two things that are here, quite helpful. I can pull myself, I can drag myself, I can walk on these four. Constantly running because newfound freedom. And then as they are walking on their fours, one fine day holding on to the center table or a sofa or something, they leave that and surprise, I can balance on two. In those initial phases, their run is from one secured environment to the second secured environment, from the center table to the sofa. And while attempting at it to walk and find balance in that walk, how many times that the child doesn't fall? Thankfully, the child's mind is not yet corrupted with the so-called education. Doesn't give up, doesn't have a self-doubt, doesn't have regrets, falls, gets up, does an Oscar-worthy natak, falls here, the mother is elsewhere, goes all the way to the mother's room, shows where it is hurt, and then start crying. That's why I said Oscar-worthy. By falling, that child learns through those failures how to walk safely with a balanced note. ऐसे कैसे भूला तूने जिंदगी की पहली सीख, ऐसे कैसे भूला जिंदगी की पहली सीख, चलते चलते गिरना, गिरते गिरते संभलना, संभल कर चलना, ऐसे कैसे भूला तूने जिंदगी की पहली सीख. The first few months is nothing but pure sincere failures. Where the mother has to be told, let him attempt, let him fall. Because poor mother's heart, ajayo, power, gets up to her. But then somebody elderly says, let them fall, let them learn to walk. There is no self-doubt yet. But what happens when we become adults? Starts around teenage. I have slipped, I have fallen, I don't think I will attempt again. Every child seems to have fear of exams. Where is that fear instilled in? As the well-wishers. బుద్ధి లేదా? ఇంతేనా? చదువుకోవచ్చుగా? చదువుకున్న and గాలియోं की बरसात. The pressure builds up, it is the self-doubt that is created in the child. Instead, what should be instilled? That every failure is a teacher. Nobody has become successful without failing. They have become successful because they have learned how to transform their failures into stepping stones of wisdom. There is a famous story of Edison. By the time this interview happened, he had already experimented about 3,000 times, failing at inventing a bulb. There were so many investors that he had managed. He was a charismatic person. He had managed a lot of investors into this invention. But 3,000 plus experiments failed. And when somebody asked him, "Don't you regret wasting so much of money in this?" He said, "No. I am convinced that a bulb is something which will revolutionize our generation. I may not be successful at inventing it, but at least I have created 3,000 different pathways that people need not waste their time and energy, because I have already experimented. That failure will become the stepping stone for others to continue this effort further." That should be the mindset that should get developed. Gata soon, the past. Otherwise, there will be ugly calluses developed on our personality as self-doubt. Brilliant people, amazingly good intellect. But yet, what happens? They fail to see themselves succeeding at anything, because what overtakes is, I am not good for anything. I am a failure. Gatasoon. Agatasoon. Agatasoon is of the future. How does future disturb the present? The future disturbs the present in a peculiar format called anxiety. We have a very healthy, fertile upstairs. Uttar Pradesh is very, very healthy, very, very fertile. It will create scenarios of how what I am doing could go wrong, and just like a deer in a headlight, get frozen, their resources, their energies, their talents unusable, because they have already imagined all different ways it can fail, and therefore not put the effort. Anxiety of the future. If it is not the anxiety, then it is the wool gathering, time wasting. ऊहालोकम. अब मैं फटाफट पढ़ लूंगा. After I study hard and I get through this entrance exam, I become an engineer or a doctor. After that, I will have my own company. I will build this, and then I will have this marketing agency, and I will produce this and market it out. And thinking of that future, sitting in the present, hours have gone by. Sadly, in Bhagavān Krishna's time, there was no this. This is called smartphone. It may be smart. We indulging in it are dumb. And what will happen if you have a smart gadget with a dumb person? Time waste of the present. So the present gets completely ruined, with the past being carried as regrets, with the future being envisioned as anxiety, not available for the present moment. Who is a Pandita? Pandit is that one. See, when you go to Jagannath Mandir, there the Purohits are called Panda. The root word for Pandita is Panda. Panda means what? The one who is firmly established in the knowledge within. It is not a title. Pandit is not a title. You may name yourself Pandit and carry on as a Prime Minister. It is only a title, but Pandita means the one who is firmly established in knowledge and wisdom, not fears and anxieties. Because their prajna has completely unfolded. Arjuna, you are talking as though you are Pandita, but then this particular situation that is on your hand, which is this war, you are assuming and creating anxiety-ridden thoughts, and you are caught up in your own anxiety-ridden thoughts. Ashocyan anvashochasvam, that which should not be grieved about, you are unnecessarily binding yourself with that grief. Grief of that which is yet to happen. Whereas a Pandita is that will not succumb to any kind of such grief and load their minds and antakarana with these negative draining. They drain our energies. Ashocyananvashochasvam prajnavadamscha bhashase gatasun agatasuncha na anushochanti panditaha. Therefore, the first message, nanu shochanti. The last message, conclusion, ma shucha. Therefore, in the end also he is saying, having understood this entire wisdom, sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja, ahantva sarva papebhyaha mokshayishyami ma shucha. But we are like Swamiji. Every child that we were when we were born, we came out into this creation crying. Therefore, crying is our Janma Siddha Adhikar, birthright. Bhagavan says, that being born as a human being, you have no right to grieve. Today, you have done a mistake. All of you. What is the mistake? You have heard the first message of Bhagavan. Thereby, you lose your birthright. Up until now, you could have claimed, I did not know. Naktili, मुझे मालूम ही नहीं था. Now coming to this satsanga, you have lost that logic. You can never ever say. Why? What is the first message given? Grief, misery, miserable circumstances will be an integral part of our life and living. Vedanta does not say or give a boon that those who listen to satsanga, suddenly all your troubles in life, problems in life will vanish. None of them will vanish. What is being taught is how to handle ourselves through those experiences, not allowing it impact us. That is what Vedanta is trying to do. Vedanta is not a magic pill that when you hear, suddenly all problems will vanish. When people say, you have been going to satsanga so regularly and still your life So many miseries. Satsanga is not a magic environment, suddenly whoosh, all your problems will vanish. They will exist. Just like somebody who teaches an individual how to drive, how to balance on the two-wheeler or a four-wheeler and to drive. They are not promising that there will be no potholes on the road. They are not going to promise that there will be wrong side traffic. ज़्यादा दूर जाने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. Go straight on this road just before you hit the flyover. That is the crucial spot where you will find people traveling all sorts of directions. इधर का उधर, उधर का इधर, बीच में सोचने वाले सब मिल जाएंगे वहां पे. The one who has been taught the ability to drive, nobody is promising that there will be rash driving around you. There will be all kinds of traffic. If somebody were to say, you weren't learnt why is there traffic jam? इसका उसका क्या नाता है भाई? Why is there a pothole on the road? अरे, just because I have learned how to drive, does it mean that the potholes become suddenly vanish? Similarly, in the traffic of life, there will be potholes, there will be rush hour, there will be traffic jam, there will be wrong side driving. And yet, to drive safely is what is taught through Vedanta. How do you calculate yourself and go through, weave through all possible horrendous situations and yet not get hit, or you end up hitting? That tactful living is what is taught by Vedanta. Nanu shochanti panditaha. Continuing the next shloka. Natve vaham jatu nasam nachaiva na bhavishyamaha. Let me read. I went to the next sentence. Natve vaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipaha nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. There will not be a situation in life where I will not be born. There will not be a situation where I will exist permanently. Meaning, that which is born will have to perish, will have to die. You go to the grocery store. Everything that has been packed has 2 dates printed on it. MFG, EXP. Manufacturing date, expiration date. That which is manufactured will expire. That which is created will die. But it seems like an eternal quest of the entire humanity. How does one beat the system to continue without giving up the existing format? look at all the Rakshasas. All of them. What was their one common quest? Whatever happens, I should not die. The best sampling that can be taken is Hiranyakashipu. His brother Hiranyaksha was just killed by Varaha Avatara. He sits down his mother and sister-in-law. If you remove, in Bhagavatam it comes, if you remove Hiranyakashipu Uvacha and just read those few slokas, that which he is trying to educate his mother and sister-in-law who are grieving for the loss of Hiranyaksha. It will look like somebody speaking Upanishad. Shariram Nashwaram, Atma Ajaram Amaram. As soon as he finishes giving that message to his mother and sister-in-law, he turns around, goes out of the palace, goes for penance. What is the purpose of that penance? Through this Sharira, I have to be eternal. He had made up his mind. Brahmaji had been scolded by both Shiva and Vishnu enough number of times. Are Brahmaji, when somebody meditates on you and does tapas and you give them darshan, you have 4 heads. Think 4 times faster. Why do you say tathastu for everyone and then it becomes our job to go take care of your mess? So this time Brahmaji went prepared. He took Sapta Rishis with him. He has 4 heads, right? With one head he is talking to Hiranyakashipu. With the other 3 heads he is communicating to the Sapta Rishis. See, whenever you go to sign a deal, you go with lawyers who are specialized in company mergers, deals. Because more than that which is printed, that which is in fine print, that has to be studied. So Brahmaji also went prepared with his 7 esteemed lawyers, Saptarishis. So Hiranyakashipu asks Brahmaji, I have done this severe tapas so that I will never die. So Brahmaji shakes his all 4 heads and says, out of syllabus. It is out of my hands. I cannot give you that kind of a boon. Ask some alternative. Hiranyakashipu smiles. He says, I knew you would say this. I also came prepared. So Hiranyakashipu asks, I should not die during the daytime or the night time. He immediately gets a counsel from the 7. And they all show, you can say yes. Why? There is a loophole. What do the chartered accountants and the lawyers' job be? Their entire life's purpose is to find loopholes. And if there are any chartered accountants and lawyers, बड़े दिल से माफ कर देना, बट मैं हकीकत बयान कर रहा हूँ. So these 7 of them, they say, go ahead, give the boon. Why? There is a loophole. I should not die in the sky nor on the earth. As soon as it, why? There is a loophole. So there are several things, clauses that he asks, and for every clause, there seems to be a loophole. And Brahmaji says, Tathastu, comes back. Now Vishnu is sitting. Now you have given me the order form with all the loopholes. Now I have to appear and create myself based on those loopholes as my baseline. Therefore he comes through a pillar. He is not in a human form nor in an animal form. Drags this Hiranyakashipu, puts him on his lap. It is not up, not down, right in the middle. Neither in nor out of the threshold. Therefore we are told by our elders, over the threshold, don't bend down to do namaskar or give or take. Either go on the other side or ask them to come inside. Because that is the place where Hiranyakashipu gets slashed. There is a game that children play. It is called Fruit Ninja. Have you seen? Where they swipe their finger and the fruits gets slashed. Hiranyakashipu on the lap of this Narsimha Avatara, like Fruit Ninja, gets slashed. Because there were so many loopholes. The point of this entire story is we cannot seek eternity through this body. The one who seeks eternity through this body is called Rakshasa, Asura. Now let us look at our immediate experiences. Every time on the TV I see the ad that you apply this, you will appear 5 years younger. Names keep changing, labels keep changing. Earlier they used to call it cream, now they call it serum. Apply it, you will look 5 years younger. Did you observe that particular product has been there in the market for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Every 6 months they change the model. I would have believed in your product if 20 years ago that model that you started with, 20 years later you still are continuing, thereby giving us the proof. Ditto, no change. Every 6 months. और हम भी ऐसे हैं. Maybe it works. What am I trying to expect? I should look eternally young. What is the first sign that the nature gives us that you are getting old? The first strand of white hair. Why should I ask you? I'll ask you all. What did you do when you saw your first white hair? The first white hair, as though nature teases us. That exact spot where the first white hair appeared, with almost immediate appearance, 4 more strands raise. Probably the nature is telling us that enough of this blackness of Rajas and Tamas, grow to become white Sattva. But then what do we do? Cover it up. And once you apply, every 15-20 days, right from the bottom, the roots. The white hair starts appearing. Immediately again. The search for trying to be eternally young and continue to be in this body and no change should happen. Change will happen. See, one simple logic. That which is sustaining this body daily, that food, perishes in 6 hours. That which is sustained by such food, do you think it is going to live eternally? The input is perishable. How can the output be eternal? Oh, let it not lead to unnecessary thought. Maybe I should search for eternal input so that I can live eternally. In the Western world, they have such potions. You drink those potions and suddenly you become eternal. Eternity through this body is a myth. Impossibility. Everybody that is born will die. Not you, not me, including all these kings that are standing here, will have to die. Janadhipaha. You are crying as though death never happens. See, there is one particular Vairagya called Smashana Vairagya. As we are aging, one by one our known associates, friends, one by one the wicket starts falling. We go to that funeral, we go to that cremation. कल ही तो बात किया था. Yesterday in the morning walk I met him, we were laughing, we were joking. Everything seemed normal. What happened today? You know, death is such unpredictable. Full Vairagya. Coming back, pondering on that issue. Come back home, take the head bath, shower. All that Vairagya which had got accumulated in the Smashana gets washed away. With what thought? Death happens, but to others, not to me. And then, knowing how the temporariness of this time, that which cannot be regained, still we have the audacity to say, I am trying to do time pass. Bhaiya, we cannot pass time. Time passes us out. Bhartrhari says that very much in the Vairagya Shatakam. Kalo na yataha vayameva yataha. Time doesn't pass. In time, we pass. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipaha nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayam atah param. Each one of us has to go through this very cycle. Being born, being dead, being born. It is a continuous cycle. One thing for sure, this a psychologist was telling me. This happened in Dallas. So there was the psychologists, they were having a meet. They somehow heard about Vedanta and they wanted somebody of a Hindu monk come and speak to them. So I spoke to them. Kathopanishad mantras I took and I explained it to them. So after the meet was done, there was one particular Jewish psychologist or a psychiatrist. He came up to me and said, I see lot of patients from different ethnicities. One thing in Indians coming from Indian background, I do not see the fear of death in them. When he gave his analysis, I heard it, I went back. I pondered on it, meditated on it. Later, 2-3 days later, I got this understanding. In the rest of the religions, they call it YOLO. You only live once. You have one life, one opportunity. So to the youth in US, because they are acclimatized to YOLO, so I had to tell them what Hinduism is with that regard. So I had to come up with something catchy. So I said, YOLAM. You only live until moksha. So I went back to that psychiatrist and said, probably this might be one of the adding factors. Is your scriptural study says they have only one life, whereas we say that we have birth after death, death and then again birth. It is a continuous cyclical movement. And as death is described in our scriptures, it is not a complete destruction. It is a creative construction from the old to new. When you sow a seed, the seedness dies, giving birth to the sapling. The sapling grows, and then there is a phase wherein the flowers bloom. The flowerness dies for it to become a fruit. The fruit fructifies, the fruitness dies, giving birth to seeds. From one format to the other, there is a constant evolution of change. There is never cessation of existence. It continues to exist. So that which is inevitable, why are you crying about it? वो तो होना ही है. Thank goodness it happens. With that happening, still we are incessantly increasing. We are what now? 8 billion plus? Homo sapiens? Human count? 8 billion plus? Of that 8 billion plus, who has the maximum? Highest? We in India have the highest population. Imagine if death was not a place. Oh, yo. We would not have resources to sustain. It has to go through the cyclical movement. There is no other way. There is a continuous chain of events, and this will happen this way. That which is natural occurrence, why are you grieving about it, Arjuna? I'll take further in depth on this and continue it tomorrow. We'll stop here. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kasyat Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Satgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.